Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked into the meeting room. The air on Kepler 442b was always too hot and thick for humans. He had been on this planet for 6 months now, working as a diplomatic liaison between humans and aliens. Today was another boring meeting about mining rights. The Zalathi delegation was already seated when Jake arrived. These cat-like aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall with thick fur covering their bodies. Their eyes glowed in the dim light of the room. Jake had worked with many different alien species before, but the Zalathi always made him nervous. They were proud warriors with strict codes of honor that humans barely understood. "Good morning," Jake said as he took his seat. The Zalathi nodded politely but said nothing. Their leader, Commander Thakmor, had silver-gray fur and scars across his face from old battles. He looked at Jake with cold yellow eyes. The meeting started like all the others. Humans wanted to mine rare metals from the northern mountains. The Zalathi claimed those mountains were sacred to their ancestors. Neither side would give in. Jake's job was to find a solution that both sides could accept. Hours passed. The arguments went in circles. Jake felt tired and frustrated. Then the door opened and a new Zalathi walked in. Jake looked up and felt his breath catch in his throat. She was different from the others. Her fur was pure silver like moonlight. Her amber eyes were warm and intelligent. She moved with grace and confidence. When she spoke, her voice was soft but strong. "I am Kirithes," she said. "I have been sent to help with these talks." Commander Thakmor did not look happy to see her. He spoke to her in the Zalathi language, his voice sharp and angry. Kirithes replied calmly, never breaking eye contact with her commander. Jake could not understand their words, but he could see the tension between them. The meeting continued, but now Jake found it hard to focus. He kept stealing glances at Kirithes. She was smart and well-informed about both human and Zalathi law. When she spoke, she offered new ideas that neither side had considered before. During a break, Jake approached her. "Your suggestions are very helpful," he said. Kirithes tilted her head. A gesture Jake had learned meant curiosity among her people. "You seem surprised," she said. "I am," Jake admitted. "Most Zalathi I've met don't care much about finding compromise." "Most Zalathi you have met are warriors," Kirithes replied. "I am a cultural attaché. My job is to understand other species, not fight them." Over the next few weeks, Jake and Kirithes worked closely together. They met every day to discuss the mining negotiations. Slowly, Jake began to learn about Zalathi culture. Kirithes taught him about their clan system, where family bonds were more important than blood relations. In human culture, family means parents and children, Jake said one evening as they walked through the colony gardens. For Zalathi, family is different, Kirithes explained. We can choose our clan through soul bonding. When two beings perform this ritual, they become closer than blood relatives. They share honor, shame, joy, and sorrow. Jake found this idea fascinating. "Has anyone ever soul bonded with someone from another species?" "It has happened," Kirithes said carefully, "but it is very rare. Most Zalathi believe it should only be done with our own kind." As the days passed, Jake realized his feelings for Kirithes were growing stronger. She was not just beautiful, she was kind, intelligent, and brave. He looked forward to their meetings and felt sad when they ended. The mining negotiations were going well thanks to their teamwork. But Jake noticed that other Zalathi in the delegation were treating Kirithes differently. They whispered when she passed by and avoided talking to her directly. One night, Kirithes came to Jake's quarters. Her usually perfect fur was messy and her eyes were red from crying. "What's wrong?" Jake asked, inviting her inside. "My clan has sent word," she said. "They are angry with me for working so closely with humans. They say I have forgotten my loyalty to my own species." Jake felt angry on her behalf. "That's not fair. You're doing your job." "They want me to return home immediately," Kirithes continued. "If I refuse, they will exile me from the clan. I will have no family, no home, no honor." Jake reached out and gently touched her shoulder. "I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do to help?" Kirithes looked up at him with those beautiful amber eyes. "There is one way," she said quietly. "But it would be dangerous for both of us. Tell me, the soul bonding ritual. If we performed it, I would become part of your clan instead of my old one. By Zalathi law, they could not exile me because I would already belong to a new family." Jake's heart raced. "But I'm human. I don't have a clan." "You would," Kirithes said. "The ritual would create one. We would become family in the eyes of my people. Jake thought about it carefully. He cared deeply for Kirithus, maybe even loved her. But this was a big decision.
What would this mean for us?
We would be bound together for life, she said. We would share everything, good times and bad times. In Zalathi culture, breaking a soul bond is the worst crime possible. Jake looked into her eyes and saw hope mixed with fear. He made his decision. When do we do it? 3 nights later, under the light of Kepler 442b's twin moons, Jake and Kirithus met in a clearing outside the colony. Kirithus had taught him the ancient words and movements of the soul bonding ritual. They stood facing each other, hands clasped together. Kirithus spoke the ritual words in her own language, then translated them for Jake. I choose you as my clan, she said. Your honor is my honor. Your family is my family. Your enemies are my enemies. Until the stars grow cold, we are one. Jake repeated the words, meaning every one of them. As they spoke, he felt something change inside him. It was as if a new connection had formed between them, deeper than friendship or even love. When the ritual was complete, Kirithus smiled for the first time in days. It is done, she said. You are now my clan brother, and I am your clan sister. Jake smiled back, though he knew they had just made their lives much more complicated. Neither of them could have imagined how much more complicated things were about to become. 3 months had passed since the soul bonding ritual. Jake Morrison felt happier than he had in years. His work with Kirithus had become even more productive. The mining negotiations were nearly complete, with both sides satisfied with the agreement they had reached. Kirithus seemed happier too. The exile threat from her old clan no longer worried her. As part of Jake's newly formed clan, she had found a new sense of belonging. They spent most of their free time together, talking about their different cultures and learning from each other. Jake was in his office reviewing contract details when his communication device buzzed with an urgent message. The sender was Admiral Lisa Carter from Colonial Command on Earth. Jake frowned. The Admiral never contacted him directly unless something was seriously wrong. He activated the secure channel. Admiral Carter's face appeared on the screen, and Jake could see immediately that she looked troubled. Lieutenant Commander Morrison, she said without any greeting. I have important news that affects you personally. Jake sat up straighter. What's going on, Admiral? The Galactic Council held an emergency session yesterday, Carter said. They passed something called the Species Purity Act, all romantic and familial. Relationships between different species are now illegal across all council territory. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. What do you mean illegal? Exactly what it sounds like, Carter replied grimly. Any human in a relationship with an alien must end that relationship immediately. The law's retroactive, meaning it applies to existing relationships as well as new ones. That's insane, Jake said. How can they make family bonds illegal? Several member species pushed for this law, Carter explained. They claim that interspecies relationships threaten genetic purity and cultural identity. The vote was close, but it passed. Jake's mind raced. What about the Zalathi? Did they vote for this? They abstained from voting, but their government has agreed to enforce the law to maintain trade relationships with other council members. Jake felt sick. What happens to people who don't comply? Admiral Carter's expression grew darker. Imprisonment and exile from human space. The aliens face similar punishments from their own governments. When does this take effect? Immediately. All mixed relationships must be dissolved within 30 days. Carter paused. Jake, I know about your friendship with the Zalathi cultural attaché. Command has received reports about your close working relationship. Jake's heart pounded. Did they know about the soul bonding? Admiral, You're being reassigned back to Earth, Carter interrupted. You leave Kepler 442b in 1 week. The Zalathi delegation is also being recalled. The transmission ended, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. He sat in his chair trying to process what he had just heard. In 30 days, his bond with Kirithus would become illegal. They would be separated and might never see each other again. Jake rushed to find Kirithus. He found her in the cultural center, teaching human children about Zalathi art. She looked up when he entered, and her expression immediately changed when she saw his face. What is wrong? She asked. Jake waited until the children left, then told her everything. As he spoke, he watched her amber eyes grow wide with shock and then narrow with anger. This is not right, she said when he finished. Family bonds should be sacred no matter what species they involve. The law doesn't care about what's right, Jake said bitterly. We have 1 week before I'm shipped back to Earth. Kirithas paced around the room, her tail swishing with agitation. What about our soul bond? Human law does not recognize it, but Zelathi law does. Jake had been thinking about the same thing. I looked up human family law while coming here. There are old adoption statutes from Earth's ancient legal codes. They might apply to clan relationships. Weiss, what do you mean? If human law recognizes you as my adopted family member, rather than as a romantic partner, the Species Purity Act might not apply to us. Kirithas stopped pacing. That could work. In Zelathi law, soul bonding creates family bonds, not necessarily romantic ones. Jake felt a small spark of hope. But I would have to refuse my reassignment orders. That means going against colonial command. And I would have to disobey the recall order from my government. They looked at each other, both understanding what this meant. They would become fugitives from both their peoples. Over the next few days, news of the Species Purity Act spread throughout the colony.
Jake learned that he and Kirithas were not the only ones affected.
Several other human-alien couples lived on Kepler 442b, and all of them faced the same terrible choice. Dr. Susan Blake, a human botanist, was married to a Corvin engineer named Veltar. They had been together for 5 years and had adopted 2 orphaned children from both species. Captain Danny Rogers, who ran freight shipments between colonies, had been soul-bonded to a Zelathi warrior named Morgeth for 3 years. All of these families now faced separation. Jake met with the other affected humans at Dr. Blake's house. Everyone looked scared and angry. This is discrimination, pure and simple, Dr. Blake said. They're trying to tear apart families. What can we do? Asked Captain Rogers. If we refuse to comply, we'll be criminals. Maybe being a criminal is better than losing our families, Jake said. Dr. Blake nodded. I've heard rumors that some mixed families are going underground. There might be places beyond Council territory where we could live freely. That's a big risk, Captain Rogers said. We'd be giving up our citizenship, our careers, everything. Jake thought about Kirithas and the bond they shared. Some things are worth the risk. That night, Jake made his decision. He sent a message to Admiral Carter, formally refusing his reassignment orders. In the message, he cited the ancient family protection laws and declared Kirithas as his adopted clan sister under those statutes. Kirithas sent a similar message to her government, explaining that she could not abandon her new clan without bringing dishonor to her family. Within hours, both governments responded with arrest warrants. Jake and Kirithas met at the edge of the colony that evening. They each carried a small bag with essential supplies. Behind them, colonial security and Zelathi enforcement ships were already landing at the spaceport. Are you sure about this? Jake asked. Kirithas took his hand. Our bond is stronger than their laws. We will find a way to survive. Jake squeezed her hand. Where do we go? I have contacts among the free traders, she said. They operate outside council jurisdiction. Some of them might help us. As they walked into the darkness beyond the colony lights, Jake looked back once at the life he was leaving behind. He felt scared but also determined. The Galactic Council might have the power to make laws, but they could not destroy the bond he shared with Kirithas. Behind them, security forces searched the colony for the fugitives who had dared to choose love over law, but Jake and Kirithas were already gone, beginning a journey that would take them far from the safety of civilized space and into a dangerous new world where family meant more than species. They had no idea that they were about to discover they were not alone in their fight. Jake Morrison crouched behind a pile of metal crates in the cargo bay of the smuggler ship, Free Wind. 2 weeks had passed since he and Kirithas became fugitives. They had been moving from ship to ship, staying hidden from council authorities. The captain of the Free Wind was a gruff human named Pete Walsh. He didn't ask many questions and was willing to transport anyone who could pay his fees. Jake and Kirithas used the last of their savings to book passage to the Outer Rim territories. We'll be at Sanctuary Station in 6 hours, Captain Walsh told them. After that, you're on your own. Sanctuary Station was an old mining platform in neutral space. It was built inside a large asteroid and served as a meeting place for traders, smugglers, and others who preferred to avoid government attention. When they arrived, Jake was amazed by what he saw. The station was much larger than he expected. Thousands of people lived and worked in the tunnels carved into the asteroid. Many of them were humans and aliens living together as families. How is this possible? Jake asked Kirithess as they walked through the busy marketplace. Places like this exist because the council cannot control everything, she replied. Out here, people make their own rules. They found a small inn and rented a room. The innkeeper was a friendly woman named Mary Chen, who didn't seem surprised to see a human and Zalathi traveling together. You folks running from the new law? She asked quietly. Jake hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Mary smiled and patted his shoulder. Don't worry, son. Half the people on this station are in the same boat. The council's stupid law has created a lot of refugees. That evening, Mary introduced them to other mixed families hiding on the station. Jake met Captain Ben Hughes, a former Earth Navy officer who was married to Zephyr Andis, a blue-skinned Corvin engineer. Their 2 children played with other mixed heritage kids in the station's recreation areas. Dr. Amy Foster was there too, a human scientist who had spent years studying interspecies relationships. Her research showed that families with members from different species were actually stronger and healthier than single-species families. The council banned our relationships because they're afraid, Dr. Foster explained during a meeting in the inn's back room. Mixed families prove that their ideas about species purity are wrong. How many of us are there? Jake asked. Captain Hughes answered. More than you might think. We estimate several thousand mixed families have gone underground since the law passed. The number grows every day. What do we do now? Asked a Zalathi woman named Linara, who was bonded to a human farmer. We can't hide forever. We're building a network, Dr. Foster said. Safe houses, communication channels, escape routes. We help new refugees find places to hide and live safely. Jake felt excited to hear this. How can we help? We need people with diplomatic and military experience, Captain Hughes said. Your background makes you valuable to our cause. Over the next few months, Jake and Kirithess became important members of the underground network. Jake used his knowledge of colonial command procedures to help families avoid capture. Kirithess contacted sympathetic Zalathi clans who were willing to secretly help the refugees. They traveled to different stations and colonies, always staying one step ahead of the authorities. Jake learned to forge identification documents and create false identities. Kirithess became an expert at smuggling families through Zalathi space. The work was dangerous but rewarding. Every family they saved made the risks worthwhile. Jake saw parents reunited with their children, couples who had been separated brought back together, and new refugees finding hope in the underground community. But their activities did not go unnoticed. Agent Ross Blake was a special investigator for the Galactic Council. He was a thin, cold man with pale eyes and no patience for what he called species contamination. Blake had been assigned to hunt down and capture the leaders of the underground network. Blake's investigation led him to trace communication patterns and travel records. He slowly pieced together the network structure and identified its key members. Jake Morrison and Kirithess were at the top of his target list. These criminals think they can ignore council law, Blake told his team during a briefing. We're going to show them they're wrong. Blake's forces began raiding safe houses. Across the outer rim, they captured dozens of mixed families and sent them to detention centers for separation therapy, a process designed to break the emotional bonds between species. Dr. Foster was captured during a raid on Research Station Gamma 7. Jake and Kirithess barely escaped when Blake's agents attacked their hideout on Meridian. Colony. They're getting closer, Kirithess said as they hid in the cargo hold of another smuggler ship. We need to change our tactics, Jake agreed. Running and hiding isn't enough anymore. We need to fight back. They contacted Captain Hughes, who was hiding with his family on a secret base built inside the Meridian Nebula. The base was called Haven Point, and it served as the network's main headquarters. When Jake and Kirithess arrived at Haven Point, they found a small but determined community. Engineers worked on upgrading the base's defenses. Pilots trained for rescue missions. Medical staff treated refugees who had been injured during escapes. Blake captured Dr. Foster and 17 families in the last month, Captain Hughes reported during a leadership meeting. We can't keep losing people like this. What about fighting back? Jake suggested. We have pilots and engineers. We could mount rescue operations. With what? Asked Linara. We have a few small ships against Council warships. Kirithus had been quiet during the meeting, but now she spoke up. There is another option. My former clan has been watching our activities. Everyone turned to look at her. Jake felt surprised. She had never mentioned this before. What do you mean? Captain Hughes asked. Clan Morthak values honor and courage above species purity, Kirithus explained. My clan brother Torvek has been sending me messages. The clan elders are impressed by Jake's actions. Jake felt confused. What kind of actions? You have risked your life repeatedly to save families, including many Zalathi. You have shown that humans can understand true clan loyalty. Captain Hughes leaned forward. Are you saying your clan might help us? Perhaps, Kirithus said carefully. But only if Jake can prove his worth in combat. The Zalathi respect warriors above all else. Jake swallowed hard. He had been a diplomat, not a fighter. But if there was a chance to get help for the underground families, he had to try. What would I have to do? Lead a rescue mission to save Dr. Foster and the captured families, Kirithus said. If you succeed, the clan might declare formal protection over our entire network. Captain Hughes nodded slowly. Blake is holding the prisoners at detention facility Omega 9. It's heavily guarded. When do we leave? Jake asked. Tomorrow, Captain Hughes replied. Blake's intelligence reports show he's planning to transfer the prisoners to a maximum security facility next week. This might be our only chance. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He lay in his small bunk thinking about the mission ahead. In just a few hours, he would lead his first combat operation. The lives of dozens of families depended on his success. Kirithus sat beside his bunk, her amber eyes glowing softly in the darkness. Are you afraid? She asked. Terrified, Jake admitted. Good, she said. Fear will keep you careful. But remember, you are not just fighting for Dr. Foster and the prisoners. You are fighting for all of us and for the right to choose our own families. Jake reached out and took her hand. Their soul bond had brought them to this point, and now it might help save hundreds of other mixed families. Tomorrow would determine whether their love could become the foundation for something much larger. A new kind of community where species didn't matter, only the bonds people chose to create. Jake Morrison checked his weapon one last time as the rescue ship approached detention facility Omega 9. The facility was built on a barren moon, orbiting a gas giant, far from any shipping lanes or colonies. It was the perfect place to hold prisoners that the Council wanted to forget about. Captain Ben Hughes piloted their stolen Council patrol ship, while Kirithus monitored the communications. They had 3 other volunteers with them, 2 human engineers named Carl Santos and Rita Lopez, and a Corvan warrior called Nixval. Security grid shows 12 guard ships around the facility, Kirithus reported. The prisoners are being held in Section C. Jake studied the facility layout on his scanner. The building was a massive concrete block with no windows and only 2 entrances. Guard towers surrounded the perimeter and energy shields protected the entire complex. How do we get inside? Carl asked. The maintenance tunnel, Hughes replied. Rita found it in the stolen blueprints. It connects to the main power station. Their plan was simple but dangerous. Rita and Carl would use the tunnel to shut down the facility's power systems. While the guards were distracted, Jake and the others would attack the main entrance and fight their way to the prisoners. As they got closer, Jake felt his heart racing. He had trained for this mission, but he had never been in real combat before. Everything depended on him leading the team successfully. Council patrol ships are moving toward us, Kirithus warned. They know we're here. Change of plans, Hughes said grimly. We go in fast and hard. The next few minutes were chaos. Hughes dove toward the facility while Council ships fired at them. Energy beams lit up the darkness around their ship. Jake held on tight as Hughes performed wild flying maneuvers to avoid the weapon's fire. They crashed through the facility's energy shield just as Rita shut down the power. Emergency lights flickered on throughout the complex. Guards ran everywhere, shouting orders and trying to restore their systems. Jake kicked open the ship's door and led his team toward the main building. His training took over, and fear transformed into focused determination. He moved from cover to cover, firing at guard positions and calling out instructions to his teammates. Nixval, take the left tower. Kirithus, watch our backs! The Corvan warrior's natural strength made him nearly unstoppable in close combat. Kirithus used her speed and agility to outmaneuver the guards. Jake felt proud to fight alongside them. They reached the main entrance and fought their way inside. The facility's corridors were narrow and filled with confused guards. Jake's team moved quickly, stunning guards rather than killing them when possible. Section C is this way, Jake called out, following the maps they had memorized. They found the prison section just as Agent Blake's reinforcements arrived. Blake himself was there, his pale eyes cold with fury when he saw Jake. "Morrison," Blake shouted. "You're making a terrible mistake. These creatures have poisoned your mind against your own species." Jake ignored him and focused on freeing the prisoners. Dr. Foster was in the first cell, looking thin and tired but alive. Behind her were the captured families, humans, Zelathi, Corvins, and others, all crowded into small cells. "Get them out," Jake ordered. Carl and Rita worked quickly to override the cell locks while Nixaval and Kirithas held off Blake's guards. But there were too many enemies and more kept arriving. "We can't hold them much longer," Kirithas called out. Jake made a desperate decision. He grabbed a thermal charge from his equipment and threatened to destroy the facility's main power core. "Let them go, Blake, or I'll blow this whole place." Blake laughed coldly. "You won't do it. You're too soft, Morrison. That's what happens when you spend too much time with aliens." "You're wrong," Jake said firmly. "My alien family taught me what real courage looks like." But before Jake could act, the facility shook violently. Through the windows, they could see new ships arriving. Large, sleek vessels with Zelathi markings. Kirithas gasped. "Those are Clan Morthak ships." The Zelathi warships attacked Blake's forces with devastating efficiency. Within minutes, the Council ships were either destroyed or fleeing. The facility's defenses crumbled under the assault. Blake stared in shock as Zelathi warriors stormed into the prison section. Their leader was a massive male with silver fur and battle scars. Torvek, Kirithas's clan brother. "Human Jake Morrison," Torvek said in accented English. "Your actions have been observed. You fought to save not just your own kind, but Zelathi children and families as well." Jake looked confused. "Zelathi children?" Torvek gestured to a group of young Zelathi who had been captured with their human adoptive parents. "These cubs would have died in Blake's separation experiments. You risked your life to save them, though they share no blood with you." Blake tried to escape during the confusion, but Nixval tackled him to the ground. The Council agent would face justice for his crimes against mixed families. "The Clan Council has made a decision," Torvek announced. "Jake Morrison, you are hereby declared the first human clan father. All families in your network are now under Zelathi protection." Jake felt overwhelmed. "What does that mean?" "It means the Council cannot touch you or your people without declaring war on our entire species," Torvek explained. "And the Zelathi do not make war lightly." Dr. Foster hugged Jake tightly. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved us all." But the victory was only the beginning. As they evacuated the prisoners, Jake learned that Blake's operation was much larger than they had realized. Council forces were hunting mixed families across dozens of star systems. "How many more facilities like this exist?" Jake asked Dr. Foster as they boarded the rescue ships. "At least 6 that we know of," she replied. "Maybe more." Jake looked at Kirithas, who nodded with understanding. Their mission was far from over. Back at Haven Point, news of the rescue spread quickly through the underground network. Mixed families throughout the galaxy heard that someone had successfully fought back against the Council's oppression. Captain Hughes called a meeting of all the network leaders. "Other species are starting to pay attention," he reported. "The Corvin Collective is considering offering citizenship to mixed families. Several independent human colonies want to declare themselves sanctuary worlds," Rita added. Jake stood before the assembled leaders, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "The Council thought they could separate us by making our love illegal," he said. "Instead, they've united us into something stronger." Kirithas stepped up beside him. "The Zelathi have a saying, 'Honor is not inherited, it is earned.' Today, we began earning the honor of true freedom." Torvek had remained at Haven Point to coordinate with the underground network. He approached Jake after the meeting. "The Clan Council wishes to offer you a permanent base of operations," he said. "A world where your families can live openly without fear." "What world?" Jake asked. "A planet in Zelathi space called Haven's Rest. It is beautiful and suitable for many species. The clan will protect it as sacred ground." Jake felt hope growing in his chest. For the first time since the Species Purity Act was passed, he could imagine a future where mixed families could live in peace. But he also knew that Agent Blake's capture was only a temporary setback for the Council. Other agents would take his place and the hunt for mixed families would continue. "We accept your offer," Jake told Torvik. "But we can't stop fighting until all the prisoners are free and all the families are safe." Torvik nodded with respect. Spoken like a true clan father. The hunt continues, but now the hunters have become the hunted. Jake looked around at the diverse group of beings who had become his extended family. Humans, Zalathi, Corvins, and others, all united by love and loyalty rather than species. They had proven that family was stronger than law, and that courage could overcome even the most powerful oppression. Tomorrow, they would begin planning the liberation of the remaining detention facilities. The underground network was growing into something the Council had never expected. A new kind of society where diversity was strength, not weakness. 6 months after the rescue at detention facility Omega-9, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the warship Unity as it approached Kepler Station. This was the largest Council military base in the sector, and it was their final target. The ship around him buzzed with activity. Human engineers worked alongside Zalathi warriors and Corvin technicians. Dr. Foster coordinated medical teams, while Captain Hughes planned attack strategies with Torvik. What had started as a small underground network had grown into a powerful alliance. "All ships report ready," Kirithess announced from the communication station. Her amber eyes met Jake's across the bridge. 15 Zalathi clan ships, 8 human colonies defense fleets, and 12 Corvin battlecruisers. Jake nodded, still amazed by how much had changed. The successful rescue operations had inspired other species to join their cause. The Council's authority was cracking, as member worlds chose to protect mixed families rather than enforce the Species Purity Act. Incoming transmission from Kepler Station, the communications officer reported. The main screen showed the face of Admiral Lisa Carter. Jake's former commander looked tired and frustrated. "Jake Morrison," she said, "I'm ordering you to surrender immediately. You're surrounded by Council forces." "Hello, Admiral," Jake replied calmly. "I'm afraid I can't do that."
"We have innocent families to rescue. Those detention centers are legal under Council law," Carter insisted. "Slavery was once legal too," Dr. Foster called out from her station.
That didn't make it right. Admiral Carter's expression softened slightly. "Jake, I understand your feelings, but you're destroying your career and your future. Come home and we can work something out." Jake thought about everything that had led to this moment. The soul bonding ceremony under twin moons. The desperate flight from Kepler 442b. The underground network that had become his new family. The mixed children playing safely on Haven's Rest. "I'm home, Admiral," he said finally. "My family is here." The transmission ended. Jake turned to address his diverse crew. "Everyone knows what we're fighting for," he said. "Not just the prisoners on that station, but the right to choose our own families. Today we finish what the Council started when they tried to tear us apart. The battle began when Council ships opened fire on the approaching fleet. Jake watched from the command center as energy beams and missiles lit up space around them. The sight was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. But this fight was different from their previous rescue missions. They weren't just a small group of rebels anymore. 3 major species had united to oppose the Council's oppression. The combined fleet moved with coordination and purpose. "Zalathi ships are breaking through the defense perimeter," Torvik reported. "Corvin forces have disabled the station's main weapons. Human fleet is engaging the Council reinforcements," Captain Hughes added. Jake felt proud to see his allies working together so effectively. Humans provided tactical coordination. Zalathi brought warrior courage, and Corvins contributed their engineering expertise. Each species' strengths complemented the others perfectly. The battle reached its climax when Agent Ross Blake, who had escaped during a prisoner transfer, arrived with a squadron of elite Council warships. Blake's forces targeted the medical ships carrying rescued families, showing his willingness to attack innocent civilians. "He's going after the refugees," Kirithess shouted. Jake made a quick decision. "Take us between Blake's ships and the medical vessels." "That's suicide," Hughes protested. "His ships are too heavily armed." "Those families are under my protection," Jake said firmly. That's what being a clan father means. The Unity moved to shield the medical ships from Blake's attack. Energy blasts hammered their shields while Jake's crew fought to return fire. Through the chaos, Jake saw something that made his heart race. A group of small escape pods fleeing from Kepler Station. Those pods contained Zalathi children, Torvek said grimly. Blake was using them as test subjects. Jake felt anger flood through him. Blake wasn't just enforcing an unjust law. He was torturing children. All ships protect those escape pods. What happened next became legend among the Allied fleet. Human pilots flew daring rescue missions to collect the pods. Zalathi warriors boarded Blake's flagship to stop the experiments. Corvin engineers worked frantically to save the injured children. In the middle of the battle, Jake left the command center and personally piloted a rescue shuttle to one of the escape pods. Inside, he found 3 young Zalathi who had been separated from their human adoptive parents. "Are you here to hurt us more?" the oldest child asked fearfully. Jake knelt down to their level. "No. I'm here to take you home to your family." When the other Zalathi warriors saw Jake risking his life for alien children he had never met, something changed in their attitude toward humans. These weren't the selfish, violent creatures their leaders had described. These were beings capable of true honor and selfless courage. The battle ended with Blake's defeat and the liberation of Kepler Station. But more importantly, it marked the moment when the alliance became permanent. The Zalathi High Clan Council formally declared Jake Morrison as clan father of all mixed families, extending their protection to anyone who chose love over species prejudice. Other species quickly followed. The Corvin Collective offered full citizenship to mixed families. 12 human colonies declared independence from the Council and created sanctuary worlds. Even some traditional Zalathi clans began accepting human members. 1 year later, Jake stood in the central plaza of Haven's Rest, the capital city of their new independent world. The planet was home to over 50,000 mixed families from dozens of species. Children of all kinds played together in the parks while their parents worked side by side in the markets and offices. Kirithus approached him, carrying a small Zalathi cub and leading a human toddler by the hand. They had officially adopted both children after their parents died in one of Blake's detention facilities. "The council delegation has arrived," she told him. "They want to negotiate." Jake smiled as he picked up the human child. "Let them wait. Family time comes first." The council had no choice but to negotiate. Half their member species had either left or were threatening to leave over the Species Purity Act. Trade relationships were collapsing, and their military forces were stretched thin trying to enforce an increasingly unpopular law. During the negotiations, Jake represented not just the mixed families, but a new vision of galactic civilization. Species didn't have to remain separate to maintain their cultures. Diversity could be a source of strength rather than division. The Council recognizes the independence of Haven's Rest and all sanctuary worlds, the lead negotiator announced after 3 days of talks. "The Species Purity Act is hereby repealed." Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The war was over and they had won. But their victory was bigger than just repealing a bad law. They had proven that love and family could overcome fear and prejudice. That evening, Jake and Kirithus walked through the city they had built together. Mixed families from across the galaxy now called Haven's Rest home. Human scientists worked with Zalathi engineers to develop new technologies. Corvin artists taught children from all species. Former enemies had become friends and family. "Do you regret it?" Kirithus asked as they watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. "Giving up your old life to become a fugitive?" Jake thought about Admiral Carter, who had recently resigned from Colonial Command and moved to Haven's Rest with her Zalathi partner. He thought about Dr. Foster, who now ran the galaxy's most advanced interspecies research center. He thought about Captain Hughes and his growing family of adopted children from 4 different worlds. "I didn't give up my life," Jake said, pulling Kirithus close. "I found my real life. I found my real family." Their 2 children ran up to them, chattering excitedly about their day at school. The Zalathi cub had learned to count in human numbers, while the human toddler could already speak basic Zalathi phrases. Jake picked up both children and held them tight. He remembered the night when he and Kirithus had performed the soul-bonding ritual under alien stars. He had thought he was just helping one person escape exile from her clan. Instead, he had created a new kind of clan, one that included anyone willing to choose love over fear, understanding over prejudice, and family over species. The bond that had started between 2 people had grown to encompass an entire galaxy. As the stars came out over Haven's Rest, Jake Morrison, human diplomat turned alien clan father, looked forward to a future where every child could grow up believing that family was about love, not genetics. The council had tried to ban human-alien love overnight, but love had proven stronger than law, and in the end, that had made all the difference.